welcome to INXS, Access All Areas, the podcast that aims to dive deep into all things great about our favourite band, INXS. Who gives a fucking shit about the Rock Hall of Fame anymore? I don't. Hello, B. We're going to get... How are you?
You've made me smile. I've rushed in from work and I was a bit shit house, and now you're making me laugh. I feel back to my normal B.
Nugget of humour. Yes, another year, another nomination list, another reason to whinge and complain and get my hair out. And
turn the page. Let's go on. 26.
Up our own sort of Hall of Fame, have it for the cool people as opposed to the bogans. Now, for international audience, bogan's a word that relates to, well, let me just say Bon Jovi. But anyway.
It doesn't. Don't be mean.
There we go. But look, we do need to address the elephant in the room. They have announced all the induction nominees, at least at this point. INXS did make the list, and I think I sort of said to you probably the night before the nominations, and I found myself opening up the actual Hall of Fame sort of website as it was about to be announced 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, and then saw the list, and my suspicions were confirmed that they weren't there, and when I looked at the names on the list, they were very akin to people who've been politicking and lobbying and, media darlings and, turning up at the right events and schmoozing, and just sort of confirmed my suspicions that it is very much a schmooze fest award process.
Yes, you've got to be in sight, to be in mind, haven't you?
Correct.
Oasis again, okay. Well, we know that INXS is better than Oasis. So
Correct.
There you go.
We should put that in the song.
We were talking off air that Duran Duran, their Duran Duranese, really took hold of the internet, were nominated and got them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And INXS fans haven't really got a cute little name to go with, well, not even cute, but a name to actually poll with. What do you think, Hayden? Have you scratched your head and thought a little bit more?
Well, the fact that the name's sort of an acronym as it is, it always makes it a little bit interesting, but maybe INXSs, plural, we'll pluralize it.
INXS.
INXSs or INXSs.
INXS.
INXSs.
I like INXS.
Maybe we'll put it out to our audience.
We'll get a poll going, yeah.
See what lands. Okay, we'll see what lands. But B, there is some exciting news in your part of the world. Now, speaking of bogans, I do believe that Brian...
You calling me a bogan?
No. Speaking of bogans, Brian Adams, that bogan Canadian rocker, who has some charm, I guess, about him, but he was recording a film clip for his concert tour around Australia in Coffs Harbour this afternoon.
Was he really?
This weekend, he posted something, I don't know, popped up on my Facebook page. I don't know why I've got a link, but there was this beautiful horse running along the beach at Coffs Harbour as part of some footage for his national tour and stuff like that. And I thought, gee, I wonder if Brian's there. I wonder if B's down on the foreshores with her.
Oh, no, you've told me. I'll go hunting.
Oh, the old summer of 69, here we come,
Let's move on swiftly.
You got to love somebody. Okay, there we go. But anyways, apparently Brian's in town. Maybe, is he playing the Holy Moly, or that'd be a bit too small scarfy?
Hoey Moey.
Oh, Hoey Moey.
Even when we spoke to Toby Rand, he knew all about the Hoey Moey. He's been around for donkeys. I'll have to find out. I'll have to find out.
You have let a little bit of an early sort of cat out of the bag, but before we do that, how's your INXS week been?
It's been good. Full on. Behind the scenes, I want to thank Darren Jones for calming me down, because I was pulling my hair out going, we've got a party to organise for May, and I'm a Libran, so I can't make my mind up. So yeah, behind the scenes, I'm pulling it all together, got the coach organised. We've only got 10 spots left on a 30-seater, so it's going to be a big party. And we're splitting it into two, so we'll have a daytime, 9 to 5, on the party bus, going around all the INX sites, and then we're going to have a big party on the end. And I know Richard Simpkins is coming to the big party at the end of the night, and a few other people, which will leak out as the weeks go along. But we should be finalising it very soon.
Okay. Well, speaking of birthdays and things, and we know Mark Opert's birthday is around the same time we started this podcast. I believe he's in Thailand this week, and he was hanging out with Denny Hines the other night. Yes. So I did send a little message to him about getting Denny in the podcast. And oh, well, there you go. Double trouble. But effectively, he said, consider it done. Hopefully that does come out pretty soon. Now, for those who don't know, Denny's the famous daughter of Marsha Hines, a very famous Australian-American singer. But Denny did appear in a band called the Rock Melons and was very successful. But married Kirk back in the early 90s and appeared on The Welcome to Wherever You Are and most of the backup vocal tracks on that, particularly Not Enough Time and I know Strange Desire as well. So It'd be great to get her on for her insights because she, I think, had a very, very enjoyable time singing with Michael in the booth.
Yeah, I want to get a few things confirmed about the heart on the glass. Did you hear about that?
I've heard a little rumor or two about that, but
Yes,
I'm sure we'll get it from the good oil.
Get it from the mouth. Yeah, the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Talking about horses again.
Yes. Now, anything else come across your INXS desk?
I just want to put it out there that as a podcast, we're a bit of a community and we have a lot of loyal patrons and friends out there. I do want to, Hayden does as well, express our goodwill and good wishes to lots of you, mainly to Andrew Everett. He's just come out of a serious operation, and our gorgeous Lisa Mack is not well again and she's in hospital. So all our well wishes to those.
Absolutely. Now, we probably opportune time to welcome our patrons aboard for this episode. It's a very special one coming up.
I'd like to say hello to everybody outside on the highway. Let's all say hello to everybody outside. It's about 10,000 people at least. Hello.
Well, hello to our honorary members, Tim Farris, Nick Egan, Mark Opitz, Richard Simpkin, Cameron Adams, Mary Woods, Darren Jones and Paul Jolie. Our patrons, Carmen, Carrie-Anne, Danielle, Sarah Markram, Sarah Camia, Dr. Jim, Katie, Lisa Mack, Anne-Marie, Susan P, Pedro, Mandy, Amanda H, David, Paul Jolie, Amanda V, Ella, Ryder, Tony, Erica, Abigail, Stefan, Jim, John A. Vink, Jackie, Sheila, Helen, Brett, Suzanne, Glenn Davis, Laurel, Bard, Laurie, Manny, Jill, Heidi, Paula, Lisa, Michael, Juliet, Scott, Anthea, Tracy, Diana, Andrew, Georgie, Stephen, Mark, Vernon, Vern, Mandy Jane, Nick, Sula, Amy, Paul P, Paul B, Kathy, Jay, Amberette, John Jamin, Chantel, Neil, Mary Ellen, Giuliano, Darren, Amber, Mark, Rob, Minnie, John Bridges, and not forgetting Joe Robbins and Sue D. Welcome to the podcast.
Now, B, we definitely need more patrons. We've got a little bit to plot and plan ahead to take this podcast to the next level. So if you feel like listening to us is worth a cup of coffee a week or a couple of coffees a week, or anything extra would be much appreciated. As I said, we don't do this with advertisers and sponsors. I don't think we've had one ad on this show in 5 years. So it's actually you guys, the listeners, that help us do what we do. So if you have been sitting back enjoying the podcast over a number of years and haven't been a patron just yet, hey, listen, don't be afraid to contribute, and we'd love to have you on our ride to get the boys into the cool Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, not the uncool one.
That's right. And you can donate to the podcast as well. We've had a few people donate prizes that we can auction or send off as quiz prizes. That's great. Thank you. Also donate via our PayPal account as well. All you have to do is put in INXSAAA@gmail.com and you can make a deposit there. Or you can go via our website or Podbeam and you can become a patron. And that's wonderful because we give you loads of goodies.
And some people hate direct debits and, having monthly payments come out as patrons and just want to do a yearly one or a one-off donation. That's all great. It all adds up to the same thing, but we welcome that support. Now, B, we've got a bit of a special episode today, part one of our deep dive chat with the guys from Ash and Moon. And as we know, Ash and Moon really, Gary Beers and Toby Rand. Also, they rotated a couple of lineups of their third members, but we're very, very lucky to have them on board today for a deep dive chat with Gary from his home in LA. We have Toby, I think, is coming in from Vegas today, who moonlights with another band to pay the bills. So we really, really are tickled that the guys got together because they are coming to Australia in March. So if you haven't got tickets yet, do yourself a favour. They're going to be playing sort of in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. And you, I think, would be in for a treat based on what we know the show to be.
Awesome. I can't wait to share this with everybody.
Yes. So we're going to be dealing probably this into two parts. Probably part one's going to be a lot about Ash and Moon and just Gary and Toby, and just what it's meant to put this band together and hear it from the guys themselves. And probably part 2 will get a little bit more involved in the INXS world, particularly B, as we sort of said last week. We do have the reissue coming out in May this year. A lot of things happening in May this year. For the Listen Like These 40th anniversary, special reissue edition, which a lot of you would have seen through media publications. There's tons and tons of information out there now about what that looks like, the Royal Albert Hall live stuff, some of the reissues, some of the B-sides. I think it looks like a very beautifully crafted reissue. A lot of work's gone into it.
So Gary will be talking about that next week.
Yes, that's right. So, B, have we got the satellite all linked up? Have we got the code?
Yeah, I think they're all ready. They're all ready, Hayden. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are the patrons ready? Are the listeners ready?
I think they are.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, this is Tim Farris. Big shout out to Hayden and B. Also want to say hello to all the listeners and INXS fans. Thanks for listening. I love you, Hayden and B. Doing a great job. Keep it up.
Hi, this is Ella from Middelburg, the Netherlands. You're listening to INXS Access All Areas with Hayden and B. And now it's time for the topic of the week.
Well, hello. Welcome, LA, and welcome, Vegas. We're Gary Beers, and we've got Toby Rand, both from Ash and Moon, and always perpetually from INXS. Welcome to our podcast. We are very pleased to finally get you both on together. We probably, I think, B has probably had numerous chats with yourself, Toby, over the last couple of years and things like that. We just found out prior to going on air that you used to go to high school or grammar school directly across the road from where we're recording from now, Toby.
I know, mate. You're in Mentone. I'm from Bowie, so we have a lot of Bowie boys versus Mentone boys. But
Well, Sharks, huh?
Bowie Sharks. I played for the Bowie Sharks. There you go. Talk to Gary about Australian rules football.
No, I know. I was about to say Gary's probably getting primed for the Vegas rugby influx. Is that right, Gary?
Oh yeah. As Toby, Toby will recall that I'm always calling either soccer or Australian football the river dance of sport. So I'm a rugby guy all through and through rugby league. So
Get that out of the way early. You're going to Vegas again in a couple of weeks and things?
I'm not actually. It's on what exactly when I'm touring Australia. So
it is too.
That wasn't timed properly, was
they
it?
got their dates wrong, So yeah.
They could have at least communicated that with you, Volandis or whatever there. So, look, you are touring out here. I guess we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I wanted to just, I guess, for our listeners, we're an INXS podcast, but we've always over, 210 episodes delved deep into, both Gary's career and then obviously within Ash and Moon. We talk about what Andrew's doing, within his sort of country genre at the moment. And we are excited to probably put about at least 75% of this particular episode into Ash and Moon, because it is the thing that's relevant now. It is the thing that obviously probably drives motivation, I guess, to get out of bed every day and do what you both are doing. So I guess for some of our listeners, how did it come about? Because I guess around COVID time, a lot of creative things happened. It seemed like there was a similar period of time where Ash and Moon and COVID may have come together in a positive way.
Well, yeah, Toby and I met at a LA at a party, and we ended up jamming and getting to know each other. I'd seen him on the Rockstar Supernova couple of screenings or a couple of recordings. I turned up there just to see what was going on, and I was pretty impressed by him. And then met him at a party. We jammed and hit it off, and then he started singing in a band I had at the time called Stadium. And then he and I started talking about writing. So we kind of formed Ash and Moon and started and wrote and produced the whole album ourselves, pretty much the two of us, and recorded it at my home studio in Tarzana in California. And then just as we released it and had signed a release deal, COVID hit basically that week. So we had to cancel our tours. We had 2 tours each year cancelled. So we kind of just did it ourselves. We did our videos at home. We did the first video for Dust Bowl. We did downtown LA with no one around, like the first couple of weeks of COVID. So a video that would have cost you $15 million had you done it properly, cost us like $200 and petrol money, basically.
The COVID video, there's no one on the streets and things, is there?
Yeah.
You've got a great, I think, drone going over the iconic parts there.
Was it? It was like vanilla sky. Gary looked at it from that perspective, and I had from the different perspective as well when we first met, because like Gary's been, touring the world, and I've, I'm a little bit younger than him and stuff. So I knew about INXS being one of my favorite bands and all that kind of stuff. So when we started jamming together and Stadium came about, it was a bit of a hotshot band. I think the first gig we did, we had Terry Nunn, Dave Navarro, we had Kieran up there as well. Kieran was the last singer for INXS, and we had Randy Cook on drums. Who was that, Gary?
Alan White from Morrissey.
Alan White from Morrissey, and it was just awesome. We did these incredible like corporate shows where Kieran and I were just like dual frontman, but then Kieran went back to Australia, and Gary was kind of like left there a little bit, I kind of want to continue doing this. So we kind of entrusted each other with the I call it the vaults. We had like all this music that hadn't been used yet, and we just open up some tequila around at Gary's house, and we just go through it all. And that's how, a lot of the first songs that come about. And then in this next iteration of Ash and Moon, we're about to release, I think, 2 more, which came from that as well, which were Gary's ideas from either the late 90s or some of my ideas from like the mid 2010 or something like that. So that we just kind of found a home for them, which is awesome.
And I think that EP, I mean, the 4 tracks that came out on the sort of the Umbra 1 or Umbra I, how do you pronounce it? What's the
Umbra 1?
Umbra 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the 4 songs you had on that, I mean, I think they were such a fantastic sort of embodiment of what the band sort of probably was. And sonically, obviously massive departure from INXS, but, it was just great hearing sort of compared to these days, traditional sort of guitar parts, great vocals, great melodies, great songcraft. And I guess EPs are a great way of introducing an act to an audience where everyone's attention spans these days are a lot less than the double live album from, live at Budokan,
I mean, we have thoughts on that, don't we, Gary?
Yeah, exactly. We know what we're doing. We've especially me, I guess, I've owned studios. I've basically grown up recording and producing in studios. So we were pretty comfortable doing what we were doing. And as Toby was saying, the musicians that we had at our disposal were just second to none. So yeah, the product turned out great. I mean, the music really speaks for itself, I think.
You seem a lot more rockier than INXS, sort of like the, I would say, the Welcome to Wherever You Are sort of movement. Is that something that you sort of push for, Gary?
Well, I've always been more the rocker out of INXS. I mean, I've always been the guy that was more into Zeppelin and Deep Purple and than the other guys. So, when it came to having our own music, it was pretty much a given that would be a fair bit of Zeppelin and Jeff Buckley. And a lot of the stuff, as Toby said, was already recorded that that I'd started back in, I think God Tank I started in 1998. And so, it's stuff that goes back to really when I was really starting to sort of question myself as a songwriter. And through to now where I've met Toby, and Toby's my songwriting partner, and it's a really strong belief in what we're doing together.
And you were able to snare someone from Jeff Buckley's production team to come and work on one of those tracks, I think. Is that right?
We did.
I don't know, because we had different mixes on some of the songs. I know that we had Dave Reitzes.
You might be right. Yeah.
Dave Reitzes, and he worked he worked where Michael Jackson did like Dangerous, and he did Barbra Streisand's vocals for like 15 years or something, Gary? Or was it more than that?
Yeah, he's a personal recorder. So he mixed Whitney Houston. He's like when we were working with him, he won 2 Grammys while we were in the studio mixing. So
wow,
I'm sure he's won more since then. He's won like 7 or 8 Grammys. So he's a lovely bloke too. So yeah, we had a pretty good team of people, and still do.
It was awesome for me as well, because I was like working with someone like who worked with these iconic female singers, and he was able to kind of get that a bit more of a range out of me, which was really cool too. So I kind of like working with guys that have worked with females, because it kind of stretches your limits a little bit and make you a little bit softer in certain areas, and because I've already got the grit, so that was really interesting for me.
You are from Melbourne. Oh yeah.
I think that's 1-1. You've already had to go at Gary's age, and you've had to go at Toby being a Mexican, I guess. I guess, B, did you want to extend on that question at all or furtherly?
Yeah. So when you come over next month, which is in March, will there be any new songs?
Yeah, there will be actually. Yeah,
So is it going to be a new album as well coming out?
You know what, Gary and I, well, I mean, we've had talks about this. Like the EP thing is all well and good, but let's face it, no one's going to be buying CDs really anymore. So I think ideally we'd love to put out a vinyl, like just a, so we could stack the vinyl with Umbra 1 and then all the new releases that we're doing. So that we're going to do, I think you're going to hear in the show two new tracks that literally I think Gary was working on today. Some of the stuff today, and I have to do some vocals next week. And we've hired the gun Jimmy Barnes' son. He's already recorded on we're going to release a cover from one of Gary's favorite bands as well, which is amazing. So you'll hear 3 songs, which we're really excited about. So, and the whole idea is probably mid-year, maybe later in the year, just do a whole compilation of 13 songs. So we'll release probably 4 or 5, but before the end of the year as well.
A track that I'd love you to, share a little bit about that, in the early days when I sort of delved deep on some of the material, Future King and Queens. I think that's just an amazing song. It's sonically, it has a little bit of afterglow in excess in the song structure to it, but it's not any way at all, a hybrid at all. But I just felt sonically it was a little bit similar. But I think vocally, it's one of your best vocal performances, Toby, and I think one you can be very proud of.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I think we tried to level the EP with a little bit of the anthemic rock, because I did come from that kind of upbringing as well, like the big anthem rock. I love listening to, obviously INXS back in the day, and then Gary might wince at me, but I loved U2, and I they were the big anthemic rock, when I was growing up, and so that Future Kings and Queens to me is kind of like a hybrid of what Gary and I both like, but with the influence of, say, like you mentioned, the afterglow and with the influence of like One by U2, like that chord progression, the A minor and the big lift. And so, and the one good thing that I love working with Gary and a lot of the time that I don't need to work with anyone else is because Gary is very good at, he knows my voice now, he knows where I can go. So we'll have a lot of sessions where we just fuck around until, the wee hours, to get those magic moments that sometimes come through. Yeah, so Gary's beat was really instrumental in producing my vocals a lot of the time as well.
Well, I think it's not just that he's a great singer, but I really enjoy what he has to say as well. Like, lyrics to me are a very important part of a song, always have been. So, and that piece of music, again, I wrote that and it was accepted on INXS's last album, Switch, but we ran out of time. We only had 2 weeks to write and record, or to record and deliver an album. So that was the final song. We never got to actually finish it off. And Toby heard the music and just disappeared for a while and came back with Future Kings and Queens, and I think it's the vocal performance is inspired. I mean, I think he really wanted to say something in that song, and he really did.
With you mentioned Switch there, Perfect Strangers was a track that became quite a prominent hit from the album and got a lot of radio airplay. Did you feel towards the end of INXS's recording career you got a sort of a second life where you had a bit to say, Gary, and you were getting quite prolific with what you were doing at Mangrove and wanting to sort of write more and produce more material?
Yeah, I think for the writing session for that record, Andrew and I, were the only ones that were sort of brought out to LA to meet with all those songwriters, and did Perfect Strangers and Brighter Future and probably 5 or 6 other songs while I was out here. And as I said, I would have had 2 songs on the record, which is pretty unheard of for me, but time didn't allow that. But some of the songs like Stargaze and God Tank, and I've been sitting around because I just couldn't get a Guernsey back in the days. So it definitely felt like I was getting more accepted and respected as a writer towards the end there with INXS. So it was well timed to meet to really sit down with Toby and open those floodgates again, because I love music and I love writing and I love playing. So
since that's when we interviewed you over a year ago, and a song like Gold Tank's probably one of the newest tracks, I guess that's come about. That has some origins back in the 90s, doesn't it?
Yeah, I wrote that. That was the first thing I wrote about, I don't know, probably almost a year after Michael passed. I mean, I just couldn't bring myself to go back in the studio, and I finally went in there and picked up a guitar and wrote the riff. and then just did a drop tune thing and just recorded pretty much exactly what you hear. Bed guitars is what I recorded that day. So, and then the arrangement and everything, and then just sat on it. And then, it's had a few other attempts to get it out over the years, but I'd given up on it, and Toby heard it and went, let's open her up. So I had all of the tracks still in my studio. So we opened it up, and it just became a God tank.
And lyrics wise, is that both of you or mainly Toby?
Just the lyrics to God Tank are Toby, but the title is mine because that's what the original piece of music was called, God Tank. So Toby wrote.
I would always check in with Gary and say, does this symbolize, kind of some of the thought that's going into it? So he'd always sign off on the lyrics as well. It's very much a duo when it comes to us signing off on things. Gary will work on music and he'll send it to me and he'll be like, what do you think? And I'll be honest and I can just say, listen, I don't think that. And then we'll have a normal discussion about it, which is good because normally when there's 5 people in the room, the discussions get a little bit more aggressive. But with 2 people, it's a lot more easier to come to a conclusion or assimilation. And then with the addition of our new guitarist, Yohai, because we were listening to God Tank just before we released it, was it 8 months ago or 6 months ago? And we just realized the chorus wasn't popping. And so we brought our guitarist in and we said, hey, mate, what are some of the things that inspire you? And so that jangly guitar in the chorus was something that all 3 of us were like, okay, this is what it needs. And then that elevated to another level again. So from that one riff, we were so passionate about what Gary had started that it's gone through all these iterations and now we finally trust the end result. So, yeah, it's good.
So it's interesting you mentioned your guitarists, etc. there. Obviously, when you play a live show, you may fill out the sound by having a couple of extra players come along. Who is the band as of today? I know controversially, we probably had to have one of our recent members move on to other pastures, and Gary was quite articulate in explaining how that all played out, I think, on Facebook recently. But who's the band at the moment, and what's going to be the lineup, obviously, live next month?
Well, as Toby mentioned, we got Jackie Barnes is going to be joining the band for the Australian tour and hopefully beyond. He's to be I know an amazing player, and I'm looking forward to playing with him. But a true gentleman and a true pro. But as Toby mentioned, Yohai Portal is our guitar player now, and he's proved to be invaluable. And he's really become a third member alongside Toby and myself. And he's really adept at the studio. He's an amazing guitar player, lovely bloke, and so it'll be the 4 of us.
Where did you find him?
It was in LA. He played in a couple of bands with one of the previous members of the Ashen Moon, and we just bonded from the first time we started playing with him. So we played one show before COVID completely shut us down was when Yohai first joined, and we did a show in Texas to 10,000 people with Berlin. So we got the taste of it back then, and then everything, all our tours got cancelled because of COVID, which is happens. But so here we are, kick-starting it again.
Yeah, and this band is a bit of a remote band as well because of obviously the trials and tribulations of being together through COVID and then trying to work on music. So we don't want to get used to it, but a lot of Yohai's endeavor and the way that he commits to doing remote work, he's very good at mixing and putting things together and guitar work and stuff like that. Where then I can record vocals at home and ideas, and then Gary can take it to his studio. So we become that kind of remote band. And then when we finally get together, it's actually such a treat. And so I think that when rehearsals start in Brisbane, the boys are getting in there on February March the 2nd or something like that. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. And they're going to do we do three lockout days of rehearsals. It's going to be the first time that the 4 of us is going to be in the room together. So as a full band, and like I said before, Jackie Barnes has already put his hand up and recorded 1 track, and we're going to ask him to do a couple more. And he has a visa to America, so that's very exciting as well. So, and he said that he's open for more work as well. So we're just moving forward with the 4 of us at this stage.
Now, is that Jimmy's son? Is that right, Gary?
Yeah, it is. And how ironic is it that I got a note yesterday that our greatest hits is #1 again in Australia. It's Chisel. So good timing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just funny because I've known Jackie since he was inside his mum. I mean, he was born. So
It's bizarre. You probably were on the Australian Made Tour walking past the bassinet, and not realising it 39 years later.
Yeah, you are.
yeah, the Barnes family are a real family, and anyone who's friends with them really feel part of the family. So it's really really a wonderful full circle to have Jackie in the band.
Jimmy's just recovering from another hip operation, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jimmy's been in the wars. He's a bit of like our version of Keith Richards, though. He won't back down. You know.
He would outdrink any one of us, that's for sure.
It's good. Look, you're in and out rather fast. I think it's really between March the 5th and the 8th. Now, I think we've got Brisbane, Melbourne, Newtown, and was Coolangatta changed at all, or was that still happening?
Our agent, I think it was more of an accident, just put it in there to fill the gaps, but it's not really a destination that any of us really agreed on, so we just removed it.
Okay.
Let you know that on Sunday we're actually doing a special meet and greet show in Sydney on the 9th, which is going to be awesome, and that's we have Young Henry's Beer come on board for that, and they are going to be sponsoring a get-together on Sunday at a famous hotel rooftop in Sydney, which is going to be awesome. So we're going to do an afternoon session, which we're going to announce very, very soon, and people can come down and the theme is come and have a beer with beers kind of thing. So
or a few beers.
Beers with beer. So we'll be up there with acoustic guitars and then they're going to have a couple of kegs of Young Henrys, and we're going to pour beers to everyone, have a chat, and Gary can talk about his legacy, and I can talk about how I'm just like enjoying to be back in Australia drinking all the beers. So it'll be good. Yeah,
Fantastic.
And as far as the shows go too, it's the first time I've been back playing in Australia for 12 years. So I guess with our schedules, we're looking to get back, show what we can do, and then really look towards doing a lot more shows later in the year.
But, Australia's like, guys, unless you're out there playing live in front of people, and INXS went through this as well, people forget you sometimes, don't they? And, probably you would have played here a lot earlier if COVID and all those other things hadn't transpired as the way they did.
Our lives over here as well. And to get a moving vessel down there in Australia, it's not that easy from America these days. But we're basically, showing intention by cutting our teeth back in Australia and showing our agency that we are ready to take on anything they want later in the year. Our dream is to get on some of the festivals later in the year, you know what I mean? And introduction, say hello, get some press, and then see what we can transpire from that.
Fantastic. And thank you for coming on our show and letting us celebrate that for you as well. So the itching question is, are any of the other INXS members going to come up on stage or be at the concerts?
I don't know if it'll be at I haven't really brought it up with them. I mean, to be honest, I don't expect anyone to get up on stage. I don't know. It would be nice, but I haven't discussed it with anybody. Or I think I'm just really looking at Ash and Moon as its own entity, and it's Toby. It's Toby and myself. We are Ash and Moon at the And I think we'll throw in some INXS songs that we do, that we feel attached to, ones that I've written the music for or what have you. But overall, I think we just really want to show what Ash and Moon can do.
And how many tracks do you envisage playing live overall? Is it most of the material you've done so far, plus obviously some INXS tracks? Is it sort of a 15, 17 song show, or frankly less?
It's about 14 to 15 songs. I think it goes for about 70 odd minutes or so, which is a little different to what I do in Vegas. Vegas is like 100,000 songs in one night, but it's good. It's like Gary said, we're only going to lean on songs that have something personal to us with INXS, because INXS was one of my favorite bands too. And the track, some of the tracks that Gary worked on are some of my favorites as well. So we'll add a couple of those little tasty things in there, and then obviously the new cover that we just finished recording, which we're going to put out at the same time we come to Australia, is going to be awesome as well. So
are we allowed to know the name of that one?
I think we could probably maybe next week. Yeah, right.
I think it. Right.
So this will be going out next week, so you can tell us.
Why not? Yeah. No, it's a Joy Division song that's but we put a little twist on at the end, so which is kind of nice. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
Fantastic. I've got a few questions from our patrons, our gorgeous patrons. One being Sula, and I've got a few here for Toby. Toby, the book Sex Tips from Rock Stars, which I do not know about, is probably extremely racy. How did you get involved in that book, and does your mother know about it? You've got to tell us about this now.
Yeah, so this was a buddy of mine, Paul Miles, and he wrote some of the. Do you know Paul Miles, Hayden? He's a Melbourne guy. He's a rock biographer. So he followed Motley Crue around over the years. He did a biography on John Corabi, and then he did this book where he went around and asked like 80 rock stars. I think it was in 2008 or something like that.
Right.
If they just answer some questions about sex tips and things like that. And all my tips came from Tommy Lee. So everything that I'm quoted on is basically just me regurgitating being
To Mount Rushmore of tips, I assume, you know?
Yeah, so, and I remember having a girlfriend at the time who knew about the book, and she's like, she got all like weird about it, and I'm like, okay, honestly, it was just tongue in cheek, just fodder. But there was some like this. If you find it, there's some old school like rockers in there who say some cool stuff. But it's just a bit of fun. Yeah, sorry.
But what's the book then? Is it still in publication?
I don't know. I hope not. That's all I'm going to say. So
To get you off the hook, Toby, tells me what you do in Vegas is it a side hustle or a companion sort of gig that you have separate dash and noon?
Yeah, I have a corporate band in Vegas, and we have a residency at the Cosmo, and that's kind of like the main income earner that over here that I would work with, and we get to tour the country, we get to do Mexico, the Caribbean, and do like high-end corporate events. And it's got actually got an Australian guy, the guitarist from Savage Garden, is in it, which is a friend of Gary's as well. And he bought a bass off Gary a few months ago, and he so we got Ben Carey on guitar, and Ben grew up in Melbourne as well, playing rock and roll. His favorite band is Electric Mary. We have Bryce Soderbergh on bass, who was from Lifehouse, and then we had Chris Reeve on drum originally, who was from Filter, Aussie drummer, but now we have a local guy, Al, and it's a great gig for me. It keeps me moving, and Gary comes out and joins us every now and again for shows as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
And the material, is it a case of just a blend of influential material that you all enjoy playing?
They're just high-end rock and roll, mate. We mash up the stupidest things. We mash up like Eminem with David Bowie, and just all kinds of weird stuff, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you put a lot of it out onto your socials, don't you? I love watching them. You've got quite a following, really, a big crowd of mainly women.
The highlight for me of the show is when Toby and Bryce sing Total Eclipse of the Heart. Yeah, that's absolute magic.
Is the tongue firmly in the cheek, is it?
I don't know. Like Bryce is pretty serious about it. But, it's brilliant.
We do a little bit of stage performing, because I did a little stint with a Broadway show, so I've got a bit of affiliation for the theatrics. So I kind of enjoy all the bullshit and a bit of the fun. So it's nice.
Really excited about this show. I'm going up to see you at Lefties, definitely, and now I'm really got a taste for having a beer with beers.
That's awesome.
Just vocally, Toby, I'm sort of, keen just as a bit of a music nerd. I'm sure some of our listeners are. How do you sort of hone and just keep the voice, as pristine as it can? I guess there's obviously exercises. I remember reading an interview with Lenny Kravitz when he was producing Mick Jagger's album, and he said that, Mick was downstairs doing vocal sort of warm-ups for an hour every morning and all this sort of stuff, and he realised just how long he could, why his career lasted or has lasted so long because of the commitment. Tell us about how, you retain just the vocal strength and things.
Yeah. So like, as growing up in Australia, like we were used to just having really shitty foldbacks. So you have to scream over the drums. And my voice was always had to be really loud. So I'm a loud singer already. But as soon as I started like touring with the big boys, I remember when we did the big tour with Slash and the Conspirators, and Miles Kennedy was the lead singer. And I remember I had like a 20-minute routine that I'd do, like a warm-up from one of my singing teachers that I kept in my phone, and, drink my teas and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd hear Miles down the corridor in his room doing an hour of just like power scales. And I asked him the next night to take me into the room and just show me what he was up to. So I kind of learned a lot from Miles. He's a very clean singer, very much doesn't like to drink or anything like that. So that was a bit of a shift as well, because your Aussie culture is like, let's have a few beers and go on. And then when I did a lot of the Broadway stuff, I got to work with some sopranos and tenors, and they showed me tricks of breathing. And then we shared like and I showed them a little bit how to do my rock and roll thing, because they had to like learn how to be rock and roll on stage and move around more. And I had to learn how to be stoic and more full of guttural and all that kind of stuff. So I'm being fortunate to work with incredible singers. And then there's a little oil oregano is my secret tip. So it's like a little oil, and you put in salads or like whatever. You put in the back of your throat. It burns like shit, but it just lubricates. Lovely. And I try and warm up every day. I always do half an hour before a show, and then that's just kind of, and not just staying healthy, mate. I don't get drunk before a gig or anything like that. Just try and get as healthy as I can.
Those days are gone. And those are the secret drops that Michael gave to Kylie, hey?
I was going to say.
Miles Kennedy, you mentioned, is a great singer, and it's just interesting. There's some singers who, just that they shoot their voice out, like it just goes at a certain time, and some artists, and again, like Elton John's last tour, like his voice just wasn't what it was, from many years ago, but he's been doing it that often. But someone like John Stevens, who's still obviously touring Australia at the moment, Gary, playing both Noiseworks and INXS material, left, right, and centre. I mean, his voice still sounds fantastic. I saw him play with Noiseworks last year. But still got those great sort of Scottish, Kiwi, Maori, vocal tones, that go way back.
I think if you find that, what I've seen anyway, I think a lot of singers, as they get very old, their voices start sounding a little bit more feeble. And I think that's the big change for most people. But I mean, a good singer, if they look after their voices, they can sing. They should be able to sing forever.
Yeah. The only difference is that when Axl Rose writes, his Appetite for Destruction when he's 18, there's no way he can sing it when he's 64. There's just no way. Like, it's just so high. Like, Brian Johnson, I don't know how the hell he even manages to do 2 nights in a row, So, but the key is to not write songs that high.
Just a little interesting anecdote. Do you remember, Gary, the song Unpublished Critics from Australian Crawl?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's actually Sweet Child of Mine, 5 years before Sweet Child of Mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess they say there's only so many chord progressions and notes and things out there. How do you sort of sometimes create music and sometimes go, geez, has this been played before? Have I heard this somewhere subliminally? I mean, it must be hard to think, have I found something original, or is it something I've borrowed subliminally in my sleep or whatever?
It is hard because, obviously, I'm a little bit older than Toby. So, my listening to music career goes back to, the height of, to me, the height of music back in the 70s of, so I've grown up with so much great music that it's all in the databanks in my head. So it is sometimes hard to not go, I don't think anything's original. I mean, I'm sure it's all in your brain from somewhere, but you've got to, there's only so many notes and so many words and so many ways of doing things. So it's got to, I just call it being influenced. You're not ripping off anybody unless you do it purposely, but you're just being influenced by people. And I think it's a sign of flattery when you put some form of song that moved you or helped shape your musical career back into a song. I mean, nothing I play bass playing wise is original. It's just an amalgam of all the great players that I grew up with and idolized, and not even to a point where I studied them. I just was too busy doing my own stuff with INXS to sit down and really work out how John Paul Jones played his bass style, or even McCartney. So, but I know the attitude that they took to their songs. So it's more the attitude to me.
You must be getting some new things out of your new guitars, though, some new tunes.
Yeah, I can't really put them down. For those who don't know, I build my own custom bass guitars called GGB basses, and the pickup it's a patented pickup that can give you 5 different bass sounds out of one pickup. That is this one little guy here, give you 5 different bass sounds. So it's the only bass that you'll need, and I'm really feeling inspired by it. I mean, it gives me tones that I don't usually use. Usually I just get the Gary Beers tone, but now I can get a whole bunch of different tones that tend to push me in different directions. So I've kind of used my technical skills to use to jump all over my history of bass sort of brain power to build something that really, to me, is just helping keep me inspired about playing bass.
Will you be bringing some over to sell?
There's some over there at the moment. Yeah, I took 3 over when I was over in Australia last time. So I think Steve Balby's out there with one right now, and I know Nick from Crowded House got one. So yeah, they're out and about. And I know at the moment the guys from Nashville, all the Nashville players, I've sold like 5 to the Nashville players in the last 3 or 4 months, and they love the fact that they get those different sounds, starting with a good old fashioned Fender bass sound. That's the core of everything. That's the core of what I play. So they just love the fact that they can go in and do sessions all day long with one bass and get different sounds. So they're going crazy over it.
Yeah. So do you find, like, from a week to week level, you know, if we structured a week in the life of Gary Beers outside family commitments, do you find, obviously there's a part of your week with Ash and Moon, part of your week with the base business, or, you know, you generally have a mix up of the two over the month?
It's a mashup every day, to be honest. I mean, Toby's a bit of a not a tyrant, but he's really driven as far as, you know, helping motivate me as far in doing everything I can for whatever I'm doing. You know, Toby's a very motivated guy, and I can be more of just a bass player. And also, you know, I've got teenage kids now here. I've got the new business. I'm a great bass player. I'm a great designer and builder. Not much of a businessman, so I'm teaching myself all that stuff as I go along, because it's all me in an elegant. It's a one man band, so to speak. So that takes a lot of my time. But I'm getting there, and I think as far as Ash and Moon is deserves more time than I've got, but I need to devote more my time better towards it, because it's a real passion project.
Cam there, Gary, very generous there with his time, etc. there, and Toby as well. Obviously, we've got a lot to talk about in part 2, but what did you get out of that?
Oh, loads. You know, they went through the COVID and they still stuck together. It sounds like they've really found a great guitarist. And Jackie Barnes is coming along as well. So I'm very looking forward to seeing them. And so you're going to be seeing them soon as well. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, in Melbourne and St Kilda in March, which
Excellent.
is about a week and a half away. And gee, we might have to have a chat to Jackie and see if we can get Jimmy on the show. You know, when in doubt, go through the contacts you can and stuff like that. All right, B. Well, as I said, we've got part 2 coming up next week. Can't wait for that. But we're going to go out with one of the tracks today, a track that we both individually sort of find ourselves liking. And we talked a bit about it in part 1 today, which was one of the 4 tracks off the Umbra 1 EP, which was really created around the sort of COVID time with some of the film clips and things. This is a great soaring vocal, a fantastic song. It really shows the songcraft, and it's called Future Kings and Queens. And we think you're going to like it. I think this is a live version, B. It's, I think, filmed down in Hollywood at the Chinese Theatre. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So when you've listened to this, I would say go watch the actual footage on YouTube, because it's so Christmassy.
Yeah. I think, as I said, go back and mine the collection. You know, I probably, putting my hand up, haven't been sort of first out of the gates, you know, with Ash and Moon, but in the last sort of 6 months, you know, as I've been exploring sort of both Andrew's solo material, I've been checking out some of the stuff that Ash and Moon are doing. And gee, if they put all this on one album eventually, plus some other
It's going to be great.
it's a very strong debut album. So,
Yeah.
but the guys, as I said, mentioned they hope to do some festivals out here in the summertime here. But do yourself a favour. There's some great vital music that Gary's, you know, obviously put his mind and heart into, along with Toby. So
It's old school classics, isn't it? And I love this song, Hayden. This one's great. So I'm glad you've chosen this to go out in today.
absolutely, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from B. Goodbye, everybody.
Hello, welcome to INXS Access All Areas, the podcast that aims to dive deep into all things great about our favourite band INXS. Who gives a fucking shit about the Rock Hall of Fame anymore? I don't. Hello, B. We're going to get how are you?
You've made me smile. I've rushed in from work and I was a bit shit house, and now you're making me laugh. I feel back to my normal B.
Nugget of humour, but yes, another year, another nomination list, another reason to whinge and complain and get my hair out and
Yeah, turn the page. Let's go on. 26.
set up our own sort of Hall of Fame. You know, have it for the cool people as opposed to the bogans. Now, for international audience, bogans are a word that relates to, well, let me just say Bon Jovi. But anyway,
It doesn't. Don't be mean.
there we go. But look, we do need to address the elephant in the room. They have announced all the induction nominees, at least at this point. INXS did make the list, and I think I sort of said to you probably the night before the nominations, and I found myself opening up the actual Hall of Fame sort of website as it was about to be announced 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, and then saw the list, and my suspicions were confirmed that they weren't there, and when I looked at the names on the list, they were very akin to people who've been politicking and lobbying and, you know, media darlings and, you know, turning up at the right events and schmoozing. And